Welcome to the Dale Sabor a Tu Salud podcast by Tadine. I am your host, Chef Carla Contreras. Join me as we steep in the world of Tadine with interviews from fellow creatives, foodies, and entrepreneurs from our comunidad. Sarah, welcome to the podcast. Can you share with us who you are and how you serve your community?
Of course, my name is Sarah Miramontes, and I am the founder of Paca Botánica, and I serve my community by creating clean, sustainable Mexican botanical body care.
I cannot wait to hear about it. Let's talk about tea first. What's in your
Yeah,
taza? What was your last studying tea?
yeah, my current Tadine tea is actually just a cup of chamomile with honey. It's super nostalgic for me because growing up, I always remember my grandma having chamomile and siete azares Tadine tea in her cupboard. So it brings me way back, super nostalgic.
That is beautiful. So, Nadine is part of your family history.
For sure, for sure.
And they reached out to you on Instagram and you recently did a giveaway.
Yeah, so Victoria reached out to me wanting to collaborate, and I got to give away one of my discovery sets, one of my ayates, and some of your organic teas, which was really great.
Can you tell us about the shift in your career? I know that you are a trained esthetician and you went from Disney princess to what you do now. Can you lead us on that journey?
Yeah, so I first got my esthetician license many years ago. And actually, a week after I got that license, I booked my first Disney job. And that ended up going for the next about 6 years. And I had just finished my last contract when COVID hit. And so that, of course, brought the arts as well as everything else to a screeching halt. So I was just trying to figure out my next move, what I wanted to do, how to keep myself occupied and sane. And I visited my parents that were living in Mexico at the time, and my mom had taken up the hobby of soap making. And so she just was like, let's make a batch of soap. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, yeah, I'm super curious. And after making a batch with her, my brain just started running with the idea. And like, I pretty quickly knew really the way that I wanted to do it and the ingredients I wanted to use and all of that. And so that just sent me down a big old rabbit hole and turned into a little business.
You applied to the CV's Daydreamer contest at the 11th hour. I am so curious about your process of applying, like even applying that day, and what was it like to win? And then what was the transformation that happened in your business afterwards?
Absolutely. So I saw the post the very last day that they were accepting applications. It was the end of the day. I was like ready to just call it a day. But I saw the application come through and I was like, okay, why not? It should probably won't take me too long. Whatever, I'll do it. And I kind of just took it as an exercise to daydream a little bit. That's like really how the questions were laid out and just get to know my business a little bit better, practice my spiel. And yeah, just forgot about it. And about a couple weeks later, I saw them follow me on Instagram, and I was like, oh. And then a couple minutes after that, they had sent me the email that I won, and it was absolutely wild. I could not believe it, and it was such a confidence boost for me because day in and day out, when you're just like grinding on this never ending to-do list with your business, you kind of to forget to take moments to step back and kind of like acknowledge what you've accomplished. And so it was really, really sweet. And they were incredible. And so not only the confidence boost, but like that financial help, which, being self-funded, everything moves a little bit slower. And having that sort of boost was a massive help to help me with production, with equipment, help me align in ways that I was hoping to with my packaging, which is coming out soon finally, and be able to invest in more materials to launch new products, stuff like that. So it was very, very incredibly helpful and incredibly exciting.
Sarah, what would you say to others that are thinking about going after their dreams?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is just staying true to yourself and allowing yourself to create freely, with no reservations and just yeah, just really just do what feels right to you. Find a community that is also entrepreneur space, that's incredibly helpful. I came from, musical theater and doing, like I really know so little, and I am just, I'm learning as I go and I'm absorbing as I go. And, everyone can do this as long as you've got the heart for it.
And you call it, what was it? Grit and vibes?
Grit and vibes. Yeah, I've been thriving off of grit and vibes, I feel so far.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Can you share with us about how you chose the name for your company and specifically the history and also your logo because it's rooted in ancient tradition.
Absolutely. So when I first was in that like soap creating space before I launched my brand, I remember reading back when I was an esthetician that the ancient Egyptians would make soap from animal fat and wood ash. And that kind of started the whole story for Paco when I thought, okay, well, what did my ancestors use? And I looked back and I found that the Aztecs would pull the amoli plant from the ground up because their roots were really rich in saponin. So they would take that with them to the river, agitate the roots, and use the soap like substance to cleanse their skin. And that, like, from the ground up, like bare ingredient, like using what they had was really what inspired my bar soaps, and kind of just like ran with it with like cultural storytelling in the soaps, and of course the native botanicals, and that kind of inspired my name, which I found that in Nahuatl, the Aztec language, Paca means to wash. So to wash with botanicals. And my logo as well is inspired by the Aztec symbol for flower.
Oh, that's incredible. That's incredible.
Thanks.
Can you share with us because there's a whole process of creating the bar and then all the way to the customer. There's like a big bar to customer journey. Can you talk about the process of making soap?
Yeah, absolutely. So first it's sourcing my materials. I'm getting, bulk organic botanicals and oils and butters, and getting that all shipped to me. And then there comes the botanical infusions, which are solar infused. So I have, 6 different jars for each different soap, that's solar infusing, and that takes at least 4 weeks. And then once that's completed, then I can go ahead and mix the bar and make the batter. Once I pour the batter into its loaf molds, that sits for another 24 to 48 hours. And then I can cut the soap, stamp the soap, bevel the soap so there aren't any sharp edges on there. And then once those are done, that takes about 6 to 8 weeks to cure. And then yeah. And then
Wow.
once that's cured, I can go ahead and package them. All of my materials for shipping are also sustainable. And I do wholesale orders to different retail stores or direct to consumer through my website and through Instagram and TikTok. So yeah, it's a whole little journey.
And you are the one that's doing every single one. Your hands
Every
are on
step,
every single thing.
every step of the way. Yeah.
Can you share with us because you have give back bars and I feel like you have 2 of them. Can you share with us how those are created and where you give back to?
Absolutely. So in order to create those perfect cubes, I have to have a little bit of extra, wiggle room when I'm cutting them. So after every batch, I would end up with these like thicker slivers that I would cut off the top of each batch, and it was really bugging me. I was like, what can I do? I don't want these to go to waste. At first I would use them for samples, but then I would just like had too much of them. And so I really wanted to find a creative way to make sure I didn't have any waste in my production. So I thought of the now giver bars, which are categorized into 2 separate bars. So I take my 3 more fresh forward bars and combine those into one bar, and my 3 more floral forward bars and combine those into one bar. So that takes up about 50% of the batch. So I rebatch them, and then those proceeds go toward a nonprofit, which I have circulating. So it's a great way to give back, reduce waste. And then I also, any of those extra slivers that I can't use for the giver bars, I donate to local, shower on wheels. So right now I'm giving to Dignity on Wheels. It's local here to me in San Jose. And I'm donating, pounds of those to, homeless that can come in and take showers and use Paca soap.
Incredible. And this is something I know from I worked at a food pantry in New York City. I taught cooking classes. I know
Ah,
that
amazing.
thank you. I know that personal care products are something that are definitely in demand. So that's incredible that you're giving that service to people.
Thank you. Happy
I
to
want
do
to
it.
ask about using the soap as a consumer. Are we using it on our body, like our face, our hair? Like where does it go?
Yeah, so I formulated these specifically for body and hands. They're very high in shea butter and cocoa butter, which leaves, and they're super fatted at a high percentage, which means that a good amount of the oils stay on your skin, which is why they feel so moisturizing compared to other bar soaps. And for that reason, I wouldn't recommend them for the hair because it kind of leaves that, thicker feel on there. So they're very much not geared toward that. They can be used on the face. Definitely, my husband loves to use Luna on his face, the detoxifying bar. And I would say just be cautious because they are true soap. There aren't any tear-free ingredients in there, so just be cautious around the eyes. But absolutely, it can be used on the face.
Can you share with us about the towels? I'm so curious and I can't wait for the listeners to hear about how the towels are created and the story of the towels in the market because you have a story of how this whole journey of the towels came into the brand.
Yeah, so I knew I wanted to come to offer a body accessory, but it really was important to me to be something that, came from the earth and can go back to the earth. We've gotten so used to plastic loofahs that are so wasteful and not good for our bodies. And I had known about ayates since before my business. And I mean, this has been around for thousands of years in Mexico, and it's kind of a dying craft. And it's something that I also wanted to honor and bring light to in that way as well. So I found a family in Hidalgo through my husband's uncle who lives there, and went to a mercado and found a lady that makes ayates, and her and her family make them. And so I've been collaborating with them and working with them and trusting them on, how they care for the agaves and making sure that, we aren't overproducing and honoring the time that they take to grow and all of that. And so that's been really amazing. And the ayates, if you're not familiar with them, they're really the process. It goes from the agave penca, so like the leaf. They really like hammer out the pulp until you just have the fibers left over. Those are dried and then made into threads. And then those threads are woven, and when you feel it at first, it comes in its loom state. So it's dry and a little more rough to the touch. But when you wet them, the fibers soften and expand. So it kind of shrinks down and becomes like a perfect texture for daily exfoliation. And they last, I mean, 6 months plus, as long as you're wringing them out and putting them to dry after. So they last a really long time. And then they're fully compostable at the end of their life, naturally antimicrobial, antibacterial. I mean, there's nothing not to love about these, I think.
This is awesome. So, what is the texture like? Is it like a loofah or is it like a washcloth?
I feel like it's right in between the two. It's a little bit more exfoliating than a loofah, and a little more firm, not as fluffy as a washcloth, as like a cotton washcloth.
And when you're using this obviously with the Paca soap, is
Yeah,
that you're you're putting the soap on it? Like, can you go through the process of how I would be using this or how a listener would be
absolutely.
using this?
Yeah, so when you get in the shower, it's going to be dry from, the day before, so you'll put it under your shower, make sure it gets wet, grab your bar soap, and then just, rub it into your ayate, and then add a
Yeah.
little bit of water again, because of course, like soap is a very concentrated, waterless body wash, right? So we want to add a little bit of that water back in so that the foam and the suds can be created. And then
Yeah.
you'll just use that washcloth all across your body and just scrub a little extra wherever you feel you need a little extra exfoliation. And
Yeah.
then when you're done, just make sure you rinse it out, wring it out, and hang it back up for your next use.
This is awesome. I can't wait to try this. Can
Yeah,
you tell us about what projects we can expect from you in the rest of 2024 and beyond?
absolutely. I am releasing my first non-soap product in the coming months. So we have a body oil on the way. I created a really small batch and tested it out at a couple of my lost markets, and it's had really incredible feedback. So I'm so excited to get this in everyone's hands. Outside of that, it's always been in my heart to kind of collaborate with different artists, especially Latino artists, and kind of just champion each other a little bit. So I have some fun collaborations coming up with that, a ceramicist and a painter specifically. And just to continue creating great products for you guys. I'm excited.
Amazing. Can you tell us how we can find you? How can we support your business?
Absolutely. You can find me on pacabotanica.com and on Instagram at Paca Botanica. I mean, yeah, just keep me in mind for any gifts coming up, any self care that you want to give yourself. And if you have tried my bars before, it would be incredibly helpful if you would take the time to leave me a little review on my website. I know that's a huge help for me when I'm purchasing new products. So that would be a big, big, big help for me.
Gracias. Thank you so much for steeping in the world of Tadine. I am your host, Chef Carla Contreras. You can find Tadine at Tadine Teas on Instagram and more information in the show notes. If you're on iTunes or Spotify, please leave us a review. Adios.